The story involves the guy who's with us now, Nathan Filer. He has written this book, The Shock of the Fall. Heart-trending is what it's been described as. And what's good news for him is he won a prize. He won the Costa Book of the Year last night. And here's the announcement.
The Shock of the Fall by Nathan Filer.
Well, my friend, what did that feel like? Congratulations to you.
Thank you, thank you. It was a shock. It was a shock, it was a surprise, and still is, really, but a very pleasant one, so...
Did you have a big night?
Well, I knew I was coming here, so I danced. I got an early night to speak to you.
Bless you.
Your story, I don't know where to begin, whether it's your story or the book story, first of all. I think we'll start with your story. It's exceptional. You get 30,000 quid last night as part of the prize, which is not why you would have written that book. Tell people about your journey to being an author.
Well, I mean, I've always written, since I was very young. I tried to write my first book when I was 7, actually.
Yeah. But like most frustrated artists, you had to go and find a job, though, hadn't you?
Well, of course, yeah. No, I work as
what?
well. I'm a mental health nurse by trade, and I've worked in mental health research and lots of different roles in mental health, but that's my area. Yeah.
You still do a bit of that nursing?
Yeah. I renewed my registration the other day, so I cover for... I kind of do ad hoc shifts, so I cover for sickness and that sort of thing.
And it was that experience of working as a psychiatric nurse which led to this whole story. So tell us about the story itself and what the shock of the fall means.
Well, it's a simple story, really, of a young man, a teenager from Bristol called Matthew Holmes, and he really
Holmes,
misses...
did you say?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
Really?
Well, you're a big influence.
Look at that, yes. Wow. I'll be taking some of that check mission there.
It's yours, it's yours. Yeah, it's his story. It's a simple story of him and his family. Matthew's grieving the loss of his brother who died when they were small boys, and 10 years on he's still sort of reconciling that grief. So it's about that, and Matthew also has an illness which is probably schizophrenia. He's not sort of diagnosed in the book, but it probably is that. So yeah, it's about that. It's about his family, which makes it sound a terribly heavy and depressing read, but hopefully it isn't, because I think that Matthew's also a fun character to spend time with. He's a really nice guy, and he's funny, he's stoic, he's brave, he's an interesting... Sorry.
I'm just going to say, sure, as a writer, you probably hate comparisons, but it's already being compared and talked about in the same breath as Mark Haddon's A Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time, which, again, was a difficult and challenging subject matter.
And it's a wonderful book, isn't it? An extraordinary book.
So many people.
Yeah, indeed. Well, no, I don't hate that comparison. That's a very kind comparison, and yeah, I love The Curious Incident. So of course it's nice to be considered in that way.
The judges said there was genuine excitement about this winner, and they said they praised your book as an extraordinary achievement. I mean, that makes it pretty special reading, one would have thought. What do you hope people will get out of reading this book?
Well, that's a very good question. I hope that they enjoy the book. I hope that it touches them, and that they want to share it. You know, I didn't write with a mission to kind of change people's minds or anything too grand and lofty. Hopefully, it's just an interesting story about an interesting character that people will engage with.
They say that you should always write about something you know, and you've obviously chosen to write about what you've had experience with, working in mental health. You weren't tempted to write about something different, something away from the day job? Well,
I think that, as you say, I mean, for your perhaps particularly for first books, you write what you know. But I think I drew as much on my family and sort of personal experiences as I did from my work. But of course I drew upon my work as well to get some of the kind of up close details right. So maybe some of the small details of you know, in a psychiatric ward, that in the nurse's office there might be a mouse mat with the sponsored by a medication brand or something like that. That I think. Which is quite a troubling notion in some ways, actually, isn't it? But I think that it would be maybe difficult to research that, and so working in the field, I was able to draw upon that.
And working in the field, as I understand, you've got shifts this weekend.
Do I?
Yeah, you've been working, yes. You
know my off-duty.
Yeah.
I'm glad one of us does.
that is incredible. I actually used to work in a bar and present the tea time news when I worked in Belfast. That's absolutely true. Because I never thought the TV would last. 34 years later, but will there come a point? I know you would believe that there's more to life than writing, and that you're always picking up experience.
I do think that, of course, yeah.
And one feeds the other, one experience feeds the other.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I've always written, and I'll carry on writing for sure, but I'll carry on doing other things as well, and yeah.
Does it all end up okay for Matthew Holmes in this book?
I think that I don't want to give away the ending.
Okay,
and
you just tell me off camera.
Better go and buy it.
I think there's a hopeful note in any case. So.